Welcome to episode 5 of the Year of Love podcast. I'm your host, Alison Wu. I'm really excited to be joined today, by a very special guest. This is someone who's actually made quite an indelible impression on my own life. As we enter the weekend and the big game, I think everybody's very familiar with coaches in an athletic place, right? And the great coaches who've gotten teams there. But did you know that there are life coaches who can help you lead your best life as well? And this person today who we're going to talk with is somebody who's not only helped myself, but many, many others, whether they were professionals, homemakers, and a wide array of people, really get to a life of authenticity and love. Michelle, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Alison. What a treat to be here with you and to share something that may be helpful to your listeners.
What is coaching and what isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really big question. You probably get a different answer from any coach you ask. But generally, coaching is a method for helping individuals create a life they love. For some people, it's part of it is moving away from old patterns that no longer work, but they're kind of in the habit of still running these patterns and are even, if they know better, they can't stop. So coaching is a wonderful way to help interrupt the pattern and create a new way of being, a new way of living. Other people have big dreams and goals that they want to achieve, but they don't quite know how to get there, or they want somebody who's going to walk with them step by step, not do the work for them, but to help them find their way of being, not just doing the actions, if that makes sense. Because here's the thing, every action comes out of a state of being. So everything we do comes out of how we're being. So if I'm being really demanding of myself, then I'm going to take action, but it's not going to be very fun, depending on how I'm being demanding. Like I can be challenging of myself, and that can be fun and exciting and help me grow, or I can be kind of punitively demanding, and that's not going to be very fun, and I'm probably going to quit. So a coach helps someone look not just at what they're doing, but where they're coming from when they're taking that action, and making sure those things are lined up well.
That's a great description. We forget, right, that we're human beings,
yes.
Not human doings.
Yes, right.
Yet it's a lot easier, probably, I think, to focus on the action of the doing instead.
Yes.
How is coaching different from therapy? Because what you've just described is quite deep, actually, to really understand a state of beingness.
Yes. Well, I'm not a therapist, so I don't know exactly. I have worked with many therapists, both as a client myself, but also I've coached therapists and trained therapists in coaching. And from what I understand, we may use some of the same skills and techniques, but we're coming at it from a different angle. So often therapy is looking at origin, like past, family of origin, looking at how patterns got instilled in the first place. While a coach may find that useful and interesting, we don't need to have that in order to interrupt the pattern and move forward. So we tend to be looking, this isn't always true, but we tend to be looking a little bit more present and future, whereas therapy, at least for the most part, looks at past and present.
How do you encourage different states of being?
Well, that's a very good question. So as a coach, what I'm listening for when someone's talking with me is, where are they coming from? What's the state of being they're in? And that's usually what I'm asking about. For example, let's say that somebody wants to advance in their career. So one of my questions will be, why? It sounds like well, duh, why not? Of course I want to advance in my career. But the motivation is key. Because if I want to advance in my career, because I secretly need to prove to my family that I'm good enough, that motivation is toxic. It's not, it may actually have me advance, but it's not going to be fulfilling because I'm consciously or unconsciously tied to a motivation that's not real to me. It's not loving toward myself. So another motivation might be, so first of all, I would find out what's the why. And if it's not a healthy why, an inspiring why, then we start to look for, well, what would it take to disengage from that old motivation and find one that's really empowering for you? So for example, I want to advance in my career. Why? Because I have so much more to give. I feel like I can give where I am now, but I'm just overflowing with creativity and ideas and love for what I do. I want to do more of that. And you can feel the difference between that and I want to prove to my family once and for all that I can do it. It's
Yeah,
very
because
different.
the former kind of locks you into that cycle of constant, like you never feel like it's enough. You always feel like it's
That's
always
right.
chasing the
That's
next
right.
thing. Money. I mean, what do you see in your client base that generally people need the most support with?
I would say most people, well, I'm sort of like, okay, let's go present day because my answer to this 2 or 3 years ago would have been different. 2 or 3 years ago probably would have been more career focused. And while that is still often a place where people will start, more and more I'm having clients come to work with me because they will say things like, I don't even know how to dream anymore. Like by dream, I mean consciously envision a future I want to live in. These past 2 years have been brutal and dreams have been battered and deflated and even lost in some cases. And so some people are wanting to find like, how do I do this now? In this chaotic climate, how do I dream and actually not feel like I'm fooling myself? So I've had a number of people start with me there, people who have lost their sense of passion or purpose. And so it's a bit of, all right, we need to reorient to a whole new paradigm of living now because life just isn't the same. And we need to get current with that ourselves and take authority back, power back from external circumstances. And what I mean by that is external circumstances absolutely have an impact on us, but they do not determine how we choose to feel and how we choose to treat ourselves. So I I don't know if you experienced this, but I certainly did over the past 2 years. It was as if I would look out to the world to find out what am I supposed to feel and what am I supposed to do. The world won't tell me that, or they won't tell me something satisfying. They will tell me. I mean, by they, I mean like just kind of the consensus of reality, but it's not helpful. So to take power back and come internally and make some choices about what does it mean to live a life I love? What does it mean to live magically in spite of a world that looks like it's got no time for that?
Do you feel like the last 2 years where people have been more homebound, certainly much more internal, that at least the quest, the inklings of that people have given some space to allow that question to start to grow?
To start to grow. And the other thing is, there's been so much loss.
Yeah.
There's truly been so much loss. And so that there needs to be space for feeling that loss, respecting the loss, honoring it, and not getting pulled under by it. To actually, there's something in honoring loss. This is going to sound very weird, but in honoring loss, we can find a renewed sense of hope and a reason to move forward. It's like I'm going to honor what I loved, who I loved, and out of that, I'm willing to love again. And that's not even romantic love, though it could be that, but I'm willing to love life again. And that's courageous right now, don't you think?
What's your guidance on people who hear this, they're inspired, if they wanted to work with a coach, what should they look for? Because it's a pretty intimate relationship.
Yeah, it's an intimate relationship for sure. So I would say what they should do is first identify maybe 3 coaches to interview. And by interview, it could be a sample coaching session. It can be a simple conversation. And what you're looking for is fit. Does this person get me? And do they feel like they can hold a vision for who I am and where I'm going and who I'm becoming bigger than I can? Because you want someone to be able to, for when you shrink down and go, oh, but I can't, because we all do, for that coach to really see who you are and not collude with, oh, yeah, you're right, this is hard. No, no, no.
How can people catch up with you individually?
Individually, they can find me at michelle@michellegoss.com. That's my email address, or they can go to michellegoss.com.
Fantastic. Michelle, thank you so very much. Keep lighting the world with your inspiring vision. And thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you, Alison.